Good morning everybody, unless of course you're watching this video in the evening. In that case, good evening, and you are watching Time Travel TV, and today we're going to be talking about T.E. Lawrence and the Arabic revolt of the First World War. So, shall we start in 1914, when T.E. Lawrence is a staff captain working in Cairo, gathering maps together to help in the war in the Middle East against the Ottoman Empire. So what happens is in 1915, the British and French land at Gallipoli in order to try and attack the Ottoman Empire, but this doesn't go very well. So they need a new way in order to get at the Turkish. So they get in contact with a guy called Hussein bin Ali, who has an idea for a single Arab state throughout the whole of the Middle East. And he has got a revolt going under the leadership of Faisal. So the British thought this is a brilliant opportunity to get at the Ottomans. And what we can do, we can give them money, guns and some leadership, and this would help them and they can attack the Ottomans for us. So what they did is that they gave them artillery, machine guns, 5,000 rifles and £100,000 worth in gold, and the icing on the cake, T.E. Lawrence. Now, when he got to the camp, he wasn't overly impressed. The Arabic tribesmen were very, very brave, very good fighters, but they were disorganised. And when they brought in mechanisation, tanks, aeroplanes, machine guns, artillery, they weren't so good, and they needed more training.
You understand, Lieutenant Lawrence. My people are unused to explosives and machines. First the guns, and now this.
So the revolt was being led by a man called Faisal, and Faisal asked Lawrence if he could wear clothes in the style of the other Arabs. And this was fine by Lawrence because he felt that it would build more rapport with his counterparts and he can get on better with them if he's dressed like them. And also he found it much more comfortable fighting in the desert wearing Arab clothes, because as you can imagine, European clothes would be a bit hot in the Arabian desert.
Very fine. Great honour.
The honour is to us. Salam, Sharif.
So at the start, despite Lawrence's help and training and guidance, the revolt still wasn't going particularly well, and they couldn't strike the Turkish army in one decisive blow. And Lawrence understood this, so he decided that it's much better to run a guerrilla war against them, rather than attacking the Turkish in one big battle. He would wear them down by attacking convoys and small encampments and blowing up railway lines. So despite Lawrence's hit-and-run tactics, the revolt still couldn't get off the ground. So they turned to Britain for money. And Britain gave them a lot of money and a lot more weapons. And with this money, they managed to recruit 10,000 new recruits.
God be with you.
Now the revolt seemed revitalised, and they started to have victories at places like Wag and Aqaba. Finally, the revolt seemed to be gaining some headway. Britain tried to attack Gaza twice, but failed. But despite their lack of success, it was clear the Ottomans were starting to weaken. The Ottomans gave a lot of protection money to tribes, and this was starting to run out. And when it ran out, they joined the revolt. In fact, the British got a much bigger foothold in Palestine as this time wore on. And it became clear that to many of the Arabic tribesmen that they weren't going to have an independent Arab state. at the end of it. But despite this, in mid-1918, the whole Ottoman front line collapsed, retreating far back. Once the Ottomans had retreated and set up new battle lines, the revolt was free to go forth and capture Damascus. And on the 1st of October 1918, T.E. Lawrence of Arabia entered Damascus. So, once they had captured Damascus, the revolt was complete. But unfortunately, this story does not have a happy ending. For Pfizer and his followers, they wanted a single Arab state. Unfortunately, they did not get that. For the Middle East was divided up into separate spheres of interest. Furthermore, T.E. Lawrence did not end happily, for in 1935 he died in a motorcycle accident. But it is his exploits which made him so famous with the public. Right, they wrote books about him, they wrote articles about him in the paper, they even made films about him, the most famous of which was the 1962 film Lawrence of Arabia, starring Peter O'Toole. Many described him as a modern-day Robin Hood. He himself described it as Camelot on camels. In fact, in his book 7 Pillars of Wisdom, he said that unlike the war in Europe, there were no messages, no instructions, no superiors, no subordinates, no doctors, no billing, no meals, and no liquor. This is what made him so famous in the imaginations of the public. And that's all we have time for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe to Time Travel TV, and I'll see you next time. Cheerio.